I was 16, and me and my friends, I'll call Evan and Jake, wanted to rent a hotel for the night since it was spring break. We got to the hotel and checked in. It had a really funky smell, but we stayed there. Once we got to our room, it was about 3 p.m., so we decided to go swimming. The pool was downstairs, departed from the hotel. Once we got to the entrance, there was a man, at least 6 foot 3 inches, in all black with a hood covering his face, facing us. I panicked a little, but not out loud. We got into the pool and swam for a few hours, until we saw that man again, all black, sitting on a chair by the pool. I cleared my throat. Can I help you, sir? I asked. No response. I'm still a little paranoid. I put my face in the water, and at the bottom of the pool was another figure that was all black. I screamed like a little girl and ran for the door. I looked back and saw nothing. Not the guy in the chair or the guy under the pool. My friends thought I was just seeing things, but I saw what I saw, as clear as water. I didn't feel like swimming anymore, so I decided to get dinner at a nearby restaurant. I got a table for me and my friends to sit at, and there, I saw once again the man in all black on the other side of the dining room. It was staring at me. I've had enough. I went over there and I lost track of him, and he took off. After I decided this trip has gone too far and we should leave tomorrow morning, but my friends didn't like that idea. Once it was 10:30, I and my friends dozed off in the hotel room. I woke up to some noises. I saw a shadow of a figure at the end of my bed. I calmed myself down and told myself that it was just my hat that I put there before I went to bed. I went to bed and got woken up again 30 minutes later to more noises. I was getting thirsty, so I reached under my bed and tried to grab my water bottle, but I grabbed something, and I was totally shocked by what I grabbed. It was my hat. I was not ever more scared in my life. I couldn't help but to scream at the top of my lungs when I heard a voice next to my ear say, "Yura." I jumped out of bed and realized it was 2 men in black right there. I tried to fight them, but it was no use once they grabbed me and dragged me out of the room. I tried to scream, but that guy was covering my mouth. I passed out and woken up in a stretcher. It turned out those guys knifed me while I passed out, and someone caught them. But the doctor said no one could catch the guys who caught me. To this day, I always have a nightlight at night, so I'm not scared. So this happened when I was 11 years old in the 6th grade, and listened to my teacher sometimes. I'm just always quiet. But one day, I was in 6th period, which is gym, and we do laps. And then we get to the end. We make a turn, and then there is this big fence. And then, when I was running, I saw a 30-year-old guy waving with a wired grin. I can't tell who he was waving at, so I kept running. Gym was over, so I packed up and getting ready to leave home when I was going to the gate in front. And when I exited, I saw the same guy. No, he was looking, but was not grinning no more. He was smiling. So I just started to speed walk because I was getting scared. After I got far from my school, I turned back and did not see him, so I was relieved. When I was walking, a blue car pulled up to me and rolled his window down a little bit. Could not see his face. All I heard was his voice. He said, "You look like a nice and smart kid." I just smiled and said thank you. And then he said my full name. I was shocked, and then asked him how he knew my name, and then he rolled his window all the way down and it was the same guy with the creepy smile. I ran and turned back to see his car was still standing there, only 5 minutes away, so I kept running. And after I made it to my house, I was sweating. My hands were shaking. I went inside and locked all my doors and windows and slept in my bed. When I woke up and wanted to see what time it is, it was 11:32 p.m. and I was thirsty, so I wanted to get some water. So I got up to get water. By the time I went to the fridge to get cold water, I heard a knock. So I went to see who it was and see in the window, and what I saw shocked me. It was the smiling guy with the item in his hand. I could not see because the outside lights were off. I thought I was gonna faint. I ran to my mom and dad's room and tried to open it, but it was locked. So I banged loud that they got mad at me for waking them up, and I told them there was a creepy guy outside the house. So my dad went to go check, and I stayed with my mom. And when my dad went, he saw nothing, and then he heard a sound. So he went, and I still stayed with my mom, and then I heard a scream, and then my mom called the police. Then the police arrived, and my dad was holding the man down, and he had a kitchen knife and was breaking my window. The police arrested him and took him. After 2 days, the police gave information to my dad to what happened. So my dad told me, the guy has been stalking me every time I walk home from school and watched me in my window. I would try to tell my friends, but they don't trust me. I'm 14 years old now, and who knows what would have happened if I kept sleeping and did not tell my dad. The guy would have broke my window and killed me. I'm a 13-year-old female, and it was only a few months ago when this happened. I was on a hockey trip with the rest of my family. I don't play, but my siblings do. I'm generally a quiet person. I have social anxiety and don't react well to situations with people complimenting me or anything. My family had just pulled into a rest stop I was already familiar with. I was walking in to go get a drink with my little sister, who was 9, when she ran ahead of me. I didn't care much, but I wish she had stayed by my side, because not even a few seconds later, a Caucasian man who looked to be in his mid-40s honked his horn at me. I instantly jumped back because I was right next to his car, which was a red 4-door sedan. He started telling me how pretty I was and how I should hop into their car. Being the unsocial person I am, I walked away with no reply. I ran inside to go meet up with my little sister. I'm pretty close with her, so I laughed about what just happened and told her. We didn't think much of it and left as soon as we came. The man made crude gestures to me as I walked back to my other siblings. I have 2 sisters and a brother. My brother is pretty intimidating and 16, while my other sister is 15 and not intimidating. They both play hockey and are stronger than me. My family drove off and started to go to the hotel we were staying at. It was an hour or 2 away, so after a while, we stopped at another rest stop so me and my siblings could stretch. I had already forgotten about the encounter with the man when I noticed a car pull in. It was a red 4-door sedan. I didn't mind much attention to it at first until I walked into the restroom area. A man followed me in and just sat on the bench like he was waiting for someone. Wanting to avoid eye contact or talking, I pulled my little sister next to me and just spoke about video games with her. I waited until she was done to walk out with her, but my mom walked in and told me to go back to the car. I always avoid talking to strangers, and I get really nervous, even when someone says hi to me. so I avoid any eye contact with people. As I was walking back out, a man followed me. He was around the same height as me. I'm 5'8". He walked next to me and whispered into my ear something along the lines of, "You would look good tied to my bed." I don't completely remember what he said. I just tensed up and ran for my car, jumping into the back seat. I was scared now, but because I was an idiot, I only texted my friend about it. She told me it was some random creep and to not worry about it. I did, as she said, and forgot about it. I thought that it was for the encounters. Once my family got to our hotel, we only checked in and went to the ice rink. We took longer than we thought, so we had to be at the rink immediately. I began to forget the man again. It was the start of the second period, and I was sitting outside the actual rink with my sister. I don't bother watching, at least not until now. My sister and I were playing some multiplayer game when a man sat right next to me and asked what I was playing. I got extremely uncomfortable and moved away, only to have him move closer. He began asking me if I had a boyfriend, and I just pointed to my ear to pretend I was deaf. It was pretty stupid looking back, but I had a plan if he believed me. I don't know much sign language, but I know enough to pass a lie. Sadly, he didn't buy it and continued to ask. I stayed silent, ignoring him, until he put his cold hand on my thigh. I was wearing leggings, so I felt how cold his hand was. I jumped at it, and he in turn squeezed it. In the game my sister and I were playing, we could message things, so I quickly looked at her and wrote in the chat of our game, "Ask me to go to the bathroom with you." She looked at me and realized what was going on. She walked over to me and told me she had to go to the bathroom. We hid in the bathroom for a while until the game was over. I didn't see him till the next game was going on, which was the next day. My sister had a fever the day the game was, so I volunteered to stay with her at our hotel. I only really did it to avoid the man again. It was a few minutes later and I heard a knock at the door. At this time, my little sister was downstairs getting breakfast from the hotel. I assumed it was her and opened the door. I hated what I saw and said to my sister. It was the same man as before. I was horrified. His face had a horrible grin on it. Before he could say anything, I slammed the door and decided it was a good time to call the police. I was crying at that point as I sat against the door and called the police. They arrived shortly after, and the man was arrested. It turns out he had been taking pictures of me this whole trip. He had been following me the whole time, even when I was swimming with my siblings. From then on, I don't ever walk alone. I hate it. I just really hope to never see him again. It was the second scariest thing in my life.